If you like to talk about combat sports and youth discussion, click the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation. What's going on, Knuckleheads? Welcome to another episode of the Fighters Rep Video Podcast. I'm your host, the Fighters Rep, and this is our post-fight UFC Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns reaction. This is our open forum, and my goodness, what a performance by Gilbert Burns, first and foremost. And I hate to say it, but once again, your boy, the Fighters Rep, told you so. I mean, I just felt like Gilbert Burns was a guy whose, his timing was there. His power was there. His speed was there. He looked like a guy that was primed for a fight. And Tyron Woodley, man, he looked lost in there. He just couldn't come up with anything for Burns. I mean, he was getting beaten on the feet. He was getting beaten on the ground. And you know what? It was eerie. It was almost like a continuation of what happened between Tyron Woodley and Kamaru Usman. And there might be something to that, considering the fact that Usman trains with Gilbert Burns. So, I'm not too blown away by it. I did predict it, but it's kind of sad to see Tyron Woodley go out like that. And I do think Tyron Woodley, I mean, even though he's a champ, he's a beast. He deserves to get the best fight or whatnot. I just feel like he should have probably, given himself some time to, maybe acclimate himself back to the fight game, because he hasn't fought in over a year, and to throw him in there with the likes of, a Gilbert Burns after being out for a year and a couple months, I looked at it and I said to myself, this is a bad fight. This is a bad fight for Tyron. That's what I said to myself, when I saw this matchup. And a lot of people had Tyron winning, and I believe he was the favorite. But again, man, I looked at the last 3 years and I said to myself, well, in the last 3 years, I mean, essentially Tyron Woodley's had one fight a year for the last 2.5 to 3 years. I think in 2017 he may have had a couple fights, but then 2018 just one fight. And then his last fight just in 2019. And I said to myself, man, this is a sport where you have to be active. Also, this is a young man's sport, right? So if you're going to be older, which doesn't mean you can't compete, but if you're going to be older, you got to be active. You know what I mean? On top of being older, he was not active. And, he just couldn't pull the trigger. He just couldn't pull the trigger today, man. And it was more of, I think, what happened last time against Kamaru Usman. And if I'm being honest, we may have seen Tyron Woodley age before our eyes in that Kamaru Usman fight. That was not a one-off. I don't know if his workouts, his body type, whatever it is, I don't know if conducive to a long career. Maybe he puts his body through too much with maybe weightlifting or I don't know what. But it's just not working out for him, man. And it's almost like he's unable to get his, his central nervous system to pull the trigger. I mean, a lot of times he's just hesitating. And it sucks, because a guy like that who's a champion, has got all that talent, to see him kind of age out of the sport, and you hate to see him make a critical decision like this, to take on a young, active fighter who's obviously dangerous. I mean, if we learned one thing tonight, it's that Gilbert Burns is no fucking joke. And I knew Gilbert Burns was no joke. I knew Gilbert joke because, like I said in my preview when I predicted him to win, he's very heavy-handed. He's so heavy-handed. And then on top of it, he's got a tremendous ground game. And he was actually able to outdo Tyron on the ground tonight and to beat him up on the feet. I mean, I said they were potentially each other's kryptonite, but I just felt like Burns, with the activity and the age, was going to come through tonight, and he did. And he was extremely impressive. I mean, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed by Gilbert Burns. In the co-main event, we'll get back to the main event, but in the co-main event, if you guys are joining us right now, thank you for joining. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join Knucklehead Nation, the most honest, non-biased combat sports channel in the world, where you get to help build your own kickboxing promotion, the only professional kickboxing promotion in the state of California. So be sure to join us. So, we had Blagoy Ivanov take on Augusto Sakai. Was able to secure a decision in that fight. It was a pretty close fight. We had Billy Quarantillo taking on Spike Carlisle. I was a little bit saddened by this fight. Spike Carlisle is actually a Southern California guy. I've actually worked a little bit with his team when he was at the training lab, or we had a kid that was associated somehow with the training lab at one point fight for us. So I was kind of going for him in the back of my mind, but he didn't get the win. He got beaten by decision as well. We had Roosevelt Roberts, who looked really good against Brock Weaver. He got a submission in round 2, 3 minutes and 26 seconds into round 2, and was what was a pretty entertaining fight. And then Mackenzie Dern, the beautiful Mackenzie Dern, she improves to 8-1 with a submission in the first round at 2 minutes and 36 seconds into the first round against Hannah Cyphers. One other fight that really, had my attention, something that, I was hoping a different result for as well, was the Gabriel Green fight, man. I've actually had the pleasure of watching Gabriel Green fight in person. Give me a second here. Guys. Getting texts. People are shooting their guns and shit into the air because of these protests out here in Los Angeles, and I'm just making sure everybody's getting inside before some shit goes down. But it's very unfortunate what's going on in the world right now. But I was very upset about Gabriel Green, even though Rodriguez, the guy who beat him, is also a Cali boy. But I'm familiar with Gabriel Green. We had Antonio McKee on the show. He's definitely associated with training Gabriel Green, along with Tracy Hess over there. Good people. And I was hoping Gabriel Green, who picked up the late notice fight representing for right here in San Pedro, would be able to go in there and work some magic. But, it wasn't meant to be. But, what are we going to do? We can't have our cake and eat it too. RGN's in the Granite is in here. He says, awesome fight so far. Can't wait for Woodley Burns. Early Bird gets the first worm. And then he wrote, whoa, Burns is for real. He certainly was. Gilbert Burns showed us something tonight. Either that or perhaps Woodley is not what he once was. But Gilbert Burns is he continues to show that he's a solid fighter that belongs in the welterweight division. And I would be excited to see him take on Kamaru Usman, because he's got what I believe are much heavier hands than Kamaru Usman. I think it would make for a great fight. He's also got a really good ground game, and they train together. So, the fact that they train together, he'd probably be familiar with Kamaru's ground game. I think it would be something that would be really exciting to watch if they decided to take on each other. Fight Life Nation, RGN's in the Granite asked, you all right, George? Yeah, no, I'm good, brother. I'm here. Says Burns moved up in weight, looked awesome. Woodley had his moments, but I wasn't shocked. Never am. Let's see here. Fight Life Nation said, Tyron looks like a guy who needs to think about retirement. Wow. People in here telling Tyron Woodley he might have to start thinking about retirement. You know what? I'm not sure you can entirely disagree with that because, yeah, I mean, he just, he looked extremely flat. He looked extremely flat today. And give me a second here, guys. Got a bit of a poor connection going on today. Yeah, Woodley looked extremely flat. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to recover. If he's going to be able to recover from this, if they put him in there with another tough fight, I think what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to give him an easier fight. They're going to have to give him an easier fight because this is not working out for him. Putting him in there with killers like that is not going to work out for him. I'm going to ask that you guys put your questions or whatever you're calling in about in the chat for now. In the chat for now. Until this gets fixed. Give me a second here, guys. Let's see what we got here. Woodley going into music and cannabis, says RGN's in the granite. Hilarious, man. Hilarious. Mahilo McKellen here. He says, what's up, friends? Burns outclassed Woodley at 37-38. Woodley probably won't have another title run. That's right. I mean, 38 years old. At 38 years old, we got to see if he could continue to, do what he's got to do. Do what he's got to do in order to compete at the highest level. Looks like, I think we got the technical difficulty straightened out now. If somebody wants to give us a call, although I could be wrong, don't judge me if I'm wrong. But yeah. So let's see what else is going on in here with you guys. Fight Life Nation says he was ranked number 1. He fought number 6. If you're ranked number 1, there's only so many guys you can fight without raising eyebrows. Yeah, I mean, he really dropped hard. He really dropped hard after this. Let's see. We've got a call coming in here. What's going on, Knucklehead? You're on the chat. Who's this? What's up, Justin Jr.? How are you, young man? Yeah, so you thought Woodley won that fight? Yeah, I did. All right. And what did you think about the rest of the fights this evening?
I actually had how many fights were there on the card? Like 11, right?
Oh, I'm not sure. I believe it was 11.
Yeah, I had 9 of 11 of the write-up. Technically, 10 of 11 was that main event. I should have got him, but man, Quarantio and Spike Carlisle, what a fight, you guys. But look, even though I do have my respected opinion that Woodley should have won, at least I had a 48-47 Woodley. I interviewed Gilbert, and I'm happy that he got the win. I'm happy that he finally gets that main event win, his first main event, and I thought that those 5 rounds could cause some trouble. I was thinking that the light on his feet, like all the rounds, and he showed good stamina. And he trains with Kamaru Usman. You saw when Gilbert had perfect timing with the takedowns. He would, what are those like? If they were, he wasn't posturing up, but he was just hammering away the body with hammer fist, kind of how Usman did Tyron Woodley. But my respected opinion, I thought Woodley got the win.
Gotcha on that one. Well, I respectfully disagree. I think Burns did enough. I thought Burns actually did really well in that fight. And I don't think it was a good fight for Woodley to take back after being inactive for so long, especially at his age. Justin, what do you think about that, young man?
I think obviously thought he won the fight, but
No.
uh, man, back in the day, obviously I didn't watch him back in the day. First watched him when he beat Maya. That's the first fight, and I've been a Woodley fan ever since. But back in the day when he was a challenger, uh, he has nice footwork, he has explosive combination, fast overhands, which, he would usually win, and he put the lights out of them,
Yeah.
hashtag Robbie Lawler raised the line. But obviously now, he's older, he's getting up there in age. Maybe Usman affects him a little, but I just think it's age and, plus the rust factor in there.
Yeah. I think the rust is important.
But I thought he won, but he definitely wasn't slowed down. He wasn't pulling the trigger. He wasn't throwing the overhand right as much as he usually does. He wasn't setting it up. He was throwing the overhand right naked. Uh, and I even saw him sat down in the middle of the fight. He just accepted the takedown, but I thought he won. But compared to his last losses, compared to his last opponents, they were like former world champions or at least title challengers, and I didn't know Gilbert was in that type of class, but man, Burns is definitely a challenge for Usman after that
Oh
performance.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Arguably the greatest welterweight in the world, Tyron. Okay, I take a little step back. I am a Tito fan, but yes, Tyron was the greatest welterweight.
I think you're right about that. But back to the present welterweight picture, Justin. I mean, who do you think is next for Usman? What do you think is the fight that should be made next after tonight? Has it changed your opinion at all?
Can you hear me good right now?
I I can hear you just fine.
Okay, because I'm actually playing video games right now. But what was the question?
I was asking, who do you think should be the next fight for the welterweight division?
Obviously, there's the welterweight division. There hasn't been really. I mean, of course, there's Chiesa, but he's not in the picture yet. So Burns is in there, and I think that should be the next fight. But the UFC is not going to put that. It's not a money-making fight. So right now, it's really still up for debate. But the right choice would be Woodley. But I mean, not Woodley. The right choice would be Burns. But I don't see them making that fight.
How about Masvidal? Jorge Masvidal. How about Jorge Masvidal?
Ah, shoot, you didn't even stumble through my mind. Shoot, he is the right choice as of now, but you know why he didn't go through my mind? Because he's not going to take that fight, that's why. He knows that Usman is just the style that he loses to, and you know what? People are falling on this hype train of Masvidal. He's not going to win the fight. He's not. And he knows that. He's not going to take the fight. That's why he's calling out Nate Diaz, who he already beat. I mean, that's why he's doing that.
Gotcha.
Woodley, Masvidal. Kamaru wants Masvidal, but Jorge ain't gonna take that fight. Who does Jorge want? I think he's been calling out Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor in there too.
Jorge's looking for the money, brother. Jorge's just looking for the money.
Yeah, he's looking for the money, and Nate and Conor are arguably the bigger money fight. Look, Jorge doesn't want the title; he wants the money fight, and Usman's style is a clear path to losing for Masvidal, and Masvidal won't take that fight. The UFC should make uh, Masvidal Usman, but Masvidal won't take that fight, and so then the next line is after this big win, which I thought he did lose, but after this big win of Gilbert, he deserves the title shot. Smash belt is taken, but the UFC will take him that fight too. However, there's no option for everything happening.
Gotcha, Justin. Well, I appreciate your commentary, brother. Anything you want to shout out before I let you go?
My channel, I interview MMA fighters, interviewed my brother. Well, not my brother, but you know how people say that. I actually interviewed Gilbert Burns.
Nice, nice, nice.
Got the main event win. Look, I thought he'd lose, but he showed up. He showed up. He was fast in there, man. And, congrats on Gilbert for winning, getting that main event win with you on 6-fight win streak now.
Yeah.
Arguably, he could be next in line, but yeah, I interviewed him. I interviewed MMA fighters, MMA topics, UFC latest news. Justin Jr. 962. I made a guaranteed betting. Kagan was an underdog. I picked her by decision. Well, that is a bet, obviously. But for you guys who listen to me, hopefully you didn't listen to later in that video where I said Woodley wins knockout round 1. But congrats to Gilbert. Big win. Big main event. He's right in there, but Justin Jr. 962.
Justin Jr. 962, thank you for the call, brother. That's a young, knowledgeable participant on the channel, one of the up-and-coming knuckleheads in Knucklehead Nation. Would love to have him on here. Respectfully, I gotta disagree, though. I thought Tyron got worked tonight. I didn't like this fight for him. I don't know why people thought so overwhelmingly that he was going to win this fight. I did predict Burns to win this fight against the bookies. I went against the grain because this is a sport, man. That we're being active. Where being active is extremely important, and you can't mess around in this sport and be off for over a year and expect to come back in there with one of the best, highest contenders in the sport. Let's see what's going on. Who we got here? What's going on, Knucklehead? Is this Kevin from Chicago? What up, Kev?
That's much, man. This is Tyron Woodley. What do you think? Think you just a little bit past his prime now, 30 years old?
You know,
Think Gilbert? I don't know.
he's past his prime for sure. And then the other thing with Woodley is, if you've been following him throughout his career, like I have, he's been inconsistent. And he was kind of up and down. He hit his stride. I thought he lost the first Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight. I would have given him the second one. From that point on, I thought he was looking great. Especially when he knocked out, Robbie Lawler. I was like, damn, he's hit his stride. And then I think by the time he finally hit his stride, he got to Kamaru Usman. I think his age caught up with him. Maybe it's the way he works out, taking a toll on his body. Because, as we could see, he's a monster of an athletic specimen. But maybe he's putting too much pressure on his body with all the weights and the wrestling and stuff. Who knows, man? But I do think he's a bit past his prime. What do you think, Kev?
I agree. He still has that explosiveness. He still has the power. You can see it's fast twitch, explosiveness, but he just doesn't have confidence in his conditioning because everything is one shot at a time.
Yeah.
One explosion. Because he knows if he goes out there and puts the combination together, really exerts himself, then he's not going to have the energy to defend himself.
Right.
Like Chael Sonnen says, nothing is scarier than being gassed out, not being able to defend yourself. Trying to take you out. So I think that's really what plays a part in Woodley, the mindset. He doesn't have the conditioning, big explosive guy, so he doesn't have the best conditioning. Confidence in the conditioning is just a bad concoction. But we'll talk about this. Gilbert Burns versus Usman. They're both training partners. That's a very interesting matchup, just based on the fact that they're teammates. Both got the same head coach, both train together. That would be hurt Usman and wobbled him multiple times. And Burns
Oh
came
yeah.
out with their hand.
Oh yeah.
That's an interesting matchup. I'm just not sure what the UFC is going to do with all these contenders at 170.
I mean, I think as impressed as I was with Burns' performance, I think you got to take into consideration that Woodley was coming off a layoff of over a year. And this is, I mean, any sport is not the sport to do that in, especially combat sports. There's timing. You got to have your speed right. You got to have your power right. You got to have your technique right besides your timing. So it's just not the sport to do that in, man. And I think he made a mistake, but I do still think that Masvidal should happen against Usman. I think that should be the next fight. What do you think, Kev?
I think so too. I don't know what Masvidal's doing. It sounds like he's chasing the Nate Diaz fight. I don't know if he's really committed to fighting Usman because he knows he goes in there. Usman's a really tough matchup. He goes in there and loses to Usman. The aura of the BMF, it kind of goes away. All the money fights go away then. So I think he's like, might as well try this game. Diaz while I can. If I go in there and lose to Usman, and then they fight.
Right, Kevin. But look, Kevin. At the end of the day, I want you guys to understand. At least if I can offer you anything from my perspective as a promoter and somebody sort of in the fight game, it's this. I mean, these guys are prize fighters. These guys get punched in the face for a living, and their life's in constant danger. Therefore, these guys want to make as much money as possible. Are you hearing me, Kevin? You still on the line? Okay, great. So my point is, if there's a fight out there that's going to make more money for Jorge Masvidal than jumping at a championship fight and throwing it all away right away in the short term, you gotta understand and I think respect that decision, right? I mean, if he wants to fight Nate Diaz first, followed by Conor McGregor, I don't have a problem with that because the guy's trying to make some money. Now, do you have a problem with that because you want to see the best fight the best and get clarity on the division? If you have a problem with that, then I understand. If you want clarity for the division, I understand the frustration. But we also got to remember, these guys got to make money, and Usman is just not a draw. He's just not. A Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal fight, let's not forget, they sold out Madison Square Garden, and Canelo Alvarez had to wait on them. Do you remember that? I mean, so, we have to, I mean, if we can't have our cake and eat it too. We can't say we respect these fighters and we want what's best for them, but also, talk down on them if and I'm not saying you did that, but we can't talk down on them if they want to go after the money fight, because I think you would probably agree there's going to be a lot more money, or at least significantly more money in a Nate Diaz fight than a Kamaru Usman fight. At least that's the way I see it. I could be wrong there, though.
No, I get that. They're prize fighters. They're fighting for money. My only thing is, he's got a contract, so who knows if they're going to adjust the contract based on fight to fight, because maybe he gets paid the same to fight Nate Diaz or Usman based on his contract, because we don't really know how that works. Because he could be looking at this as a percentage thing. Like, he knows Nate Diaz is a relatively easy matchup for him.
Yeah.
So he can go out there, get paid the same amount as he would to fight Usman.
I think he'll make more, man. I think he'll make more fighting Nate Diaz, man. I mean, I'm not sure a Kamaru Usman fight versus a Jorge Masvidal fight sells out Madison Square Garden the way a Jorge Masvidal fight versus Nate Diaz fight does. That's my first thing. The second thing is, I appreciate what you're saying, but it's a tough fight. Justin Jr. was on here, saying he's not going to win that fight. But listen, that's the same thing people said about Jorge Masvidal when he fought Ben Askren. And we all saw what happened there. Jorge Masvidal is an explosive, come forward striker that has good enough wrestling and takedown defense, I think, to make it a competitive fight. And I don't think he's scared. I just think he's trying to line up his future. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I think too. I don't think
Yeah.
he's scared.
Yeah.
He's just trying to play. He's just trying to ride this wave out top. You know, he gets
Yeah.
a lot of time trying to ride this wave out top. But I do think if he goes out there and beats Usman, becomes UFC champion, he'll be able to renegotiate his contract. He'll have so much more leverage power.
Oh, yeah.
His stardom will go through the roof. So
Yeah.
you gotta look at it that way. You want to take the risk, fight this tougher fighter, because everyone knows Usman's a way tougher fighter than
Oh, yeah.
Diaz.
Oh, yeah.
So, but either way, I'm not gonna complain. Either it doesn't matter. If he wants to go fight Nate Diaz, go ahead. They can put Gilbert Burns versus Usman. They can do Covington versus Usman too. They can do, and then maybe they can do Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns. I think that while they do Covington versus Usman too.
I like I like Leon Edwards, man. I really like him. I think this division is incredibly interesting. Look, for me, Kevin, I want to see Masvidal versus Usman. That's what I want to see. But if it doesn't happen, what can we, what can we do? If there's I think the way Masvidal's looking at it is as follows. He's saying to himself, look, Kamaru is probably going to be champ for a while. So before I take my shot at him, let me make as much money as I can so I don't lose that aura of bad motherfuckerness the way you were talking about earlier on this call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Strategic.
Point is, no, I hear you. And another point is Usman. A lot of people are acting like he's unbeatable, he's invincible. I don't know, man. He got hurt badly. But he got wobbled multiple times against Covington.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He got rocked. He got his legs buckled, knees buckled. So, and Covington isn't known for his power. He doesn't have much power in his hands.
Right. He's known as a volume guy. And he did wobble Usman a few times in that fight. And to be honest, I thought Covington was winning that fight up until the 5th round. I mean, I would have had to give it maybe slightly to Covington until Usman was able to finish him, which was, fantastic what he did there in the 5th round. But I actually thought he was losing that.
Yeah, definitely was a close fight. Could have had the favorite Covington, no doubt.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see someone with a little bit more power. Some of these guys with a little bit more power. Burns, he's definitely got explosive power. Masvidal has explosive power. The only question is, can they keep it on their feet? Can they stop the takedowns? But if they can, then it really favors them because Burns, the dude, you saw his combinations. He was
Yeah, man.
really nice hands, really explosive hands. So that's gonna be interesting, 170. But I didn't want to talk about this other fight real quick. Like, boy, Ivanov.
Yeah.
Man, this dude just can't catch a break. Remember that Derek Lewis fight? I thought he completely got robbed in that fight.
Yeah.
And then in this fight, I thought he fought a really good fight. They're close rounds, and I thought that 3rd round, I'm glad Daniel Cormier said something with the fence grab. I feel like that could have been the difference in the fight. I felt like if he got the takedown, he would have stayed on top and won the round. But they just can't catch a break. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, maybe he just, I don't see it as anything too sinister. Neither one of these guys is a huge name. I don't think. I think he probably, just like you said, kind of got the short end of the stick. Shouldn't have left it in the judge's hands. That's what they say. So, best of luck to him. I mean, I don't think, if I'm being honest, I don't think either one of them is really going to win a title in the heavyweight division, but they're still, they could make for some fun fights. So, best of luck to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, my last point, I'll just say, Tim Elliott, man, that fight was frustrating to watch. Watching him ragdoll the dude, get takedown after takedown, but he was just so wild. And, they could settle down, get top control, ease into the position. You just, I know I'm going to jump around and I'm going to do this, and then not a good sign. He might be looking at the end of the road there with Tim Elliott.
Against the debut.
Yeah.
And what a performance by that debut. I mean, now, he debuts, he beats a ranked guy, and now he's going to be ranked. Yeah, that's exactly what you want as a debut. So, I mean, hey, you're right. That was frustrating to watch, especially if you're a Tim Elliott fan. But, man, that guy is going to go home happy. Once he really thinks about it, because he sounded upset afterwards because he wanted to get the $50,000 or whatever, and he was hoping to put on a better performance, he said. But he put on a good enough performance in my eyes, man. If you go into the UFC and beat a ranked guy right off the bat, I don't think you can do much better than that. You know what I mean?
Oh man, he weathered the storm. That's what you got to do with against some of these guys. Just weather the storm and watch how fast they fade. But I honestly feel like it was more at the fault of Tim Elliott, because I feel like he's a more talented fighter. It's just he fought sloppy. He didn't fight calm and cool, collected like he usually does. But I think that may be due to his age. He might be getting up there in his age, not really focused. You saw his last fight, he got rocked badly. He's usually never get rocked. He's usually got a really good chin on him. So that may be due to the fact. But either way, that was way to weather the storm and get that one submission. So, but I'll leave it to it. Take my call.
For sure, Kevin. Thank you for calling in, brother. Much appreciated. That's Kevin from Chicago, a fantastic knucklehead / contributor to the Fighters Rep channel. Much love to you, Kevin. Let's see. Fight Life Nation says, I think Usman is in danger of going down the same path. Doesn't stay active enough. You may be right about that, Fight Life. Let's see here. What else we got going on here? Looks like RGN agrees with Fight Life on that one. Mihailo says, Woodley said he has an injury, personal problems, and fame distractions with the Usman fight. What will be his reason now after he said he changed his life to focus more on fighting? That's an interesting point. And, I am interested to hear what he has to say. I mean, is he just going to say, hey, I just got beat by the better man? We'll see. I mean, I think that's what happened tonight, but we'll see. AJ Lee, what up, brother? He's in the chat. He says, Usman versus Burns. Book it. Well, hey, guys, we can't forget Masvidal now. RGN's in the granite says he's Woodley. Still explosive, but not enough. And AJ Lee, he says Spike was robbed. It was a good fight. RGN's in the granite says, I predict all the champs in MMA lose. Ouch. Jamaican says, fighter time waits on no man. Woodley better stick to rapping brutal, my Jamaican brother. RGN's in the granite says, yup. AJ Lee, he says, we're going to have a new champion in every weight division apart from the women's divisions and light heavyweight. RGN's seems to co-sign that one. Jamaican in the chat says, Spike lost. He's a one-round fighter. He has nothing on the feet. And then AJ Lee, he looks to disagree. Round 1 and 2, he thinks Spike won. RGN in the granite says, a few quick fights in 6 here on the East Coast. Rip George Floyd. Burns reminds me of Justin. I guess RGN is talking about Justin Gaethje. But for real, Rip George Floyd, man, that's a fucked up situation. They're out here, people are out here in San Pedro shooting their guns in the air and shit. I had to tell people in my house, come inside, man, come inside. What goes up must come down. And we don't need any more drama in our lives, that's for sure. Hermano, what's up, brother? He says Woodley should retire. Appreciate you guys. If it's your first time in the chat, hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon next to it. Join us. We're on this channel several times a week, typically 7 p.m. Pacific time. So if you subscribe, hit that bell notification icon next to it, you'll know. We'll be on the next time after this. We'll be on Monday with Manny Robles and our new Keep It Clean Boxing podcast. And I'll be still going live, I believe, Fridays. Wednesdays we'll probably be putting up fights as well. So we'll see. Let's see what's going on here. Wait, what did he just say? Woodley won? Yeah, AJ Lee, he wasn't feeling uh, Justin Jr.'s claim that Woodley won that fight. Neither was I, man. I mean, everybody kind of has their opinion, but I thought Woodley got beat up pretty bad, dominated pretty bad tonight. Yeah, so RGN's in the Granite says Woodley rolling blunts on Hotboxing Thursday. That's not that's not a problem. Kevin from Chicago says Justin Jr. usually spot on, so we'll let this one slide. Burn dominated that fight. I agree with that. And RGN says laughing, says the kid's usually right. Why does he think Woodley won? I don't know. RGN's in the Granite says Riot's probably got your internet messed up, George. I hope not, man. I hope not. AJ Lee says Masvidal would destroy Usman. I think that's a great fight, and our man RGN's is seems to be co-signing that. The fight's not going to happen because Usman wants crazy money. I mean, I think he wants crazy money because he thinks he deserves crazy money. But the person who deserves crazy money in that fight is going to be Jorge Masvidal. That's going to be one of those fights where the champion should be making less than the challenger. Because again, I mean, as much as I like Usman, he's a good fighter. I think he's a very good fighter. He's not the draw that Jorge Masvidal is. As far as ticket sales go, he is the B-side on that one. Do I know who's going to win that fight? No, I can't say with confidence yet. I'd need to ponder on it for a little bit. But I like both of their chances. I think right now off the top of my head, it's a 50-50 fight. Jamaican says, Woodley said he wanted to fight Adesanya. LOL, that would have been a crime scene. I think Adesanya would hurt Woodley bad if Woodley didn't wrestle him immediately to the ground. Usman versus Masvidal, Colby versus Burns, Leon Scott versus Wonderboy, Jeff Neal versus Magny. I think you meant Leon Edwards versus Wonderboy. I do think Leon Edwards, he's in the mix for sure. I want to see him fight. RGN's in the Granite says, I like that Jamaican. And Jamaica replies with a salute. Wonderful when everybody in the chat's getting along, brother. I saw Woodley in Vancouver. He's a little tiny guy, but has broad shoulders. I can't see him beating real welterweights at his age. His best bet is to retire since he's too short for middleweight. Ouch! The brutal honesty from Jamaican. RGN's in the Granite says, George, you look worried. Go do your thing, brother. I'm good. It's just, when you hear people are shooting in the air, people, I say this time and time again, man. I say this time and time again. I hope people don't take this the wrong way when I say this, but human beings as a species, this is backed by science. I don't know what people expect from human beings. What happened to George Floyd was a crime against humanity. It was the worst thing in the world, and in my opinion, if somebody does that, they should be dealt with right there and then. That being said, now people are looting and rioting and shooting bullets into the air and doing stupid shit. And somebody got killed trying to rob a pawn shop, and people are just not that smart, and you can't blame the looting or the ridiculousness on one particular group because everybody's doing it. But, it just shows you how human beings are, how dumb they are. Protests are okay. Trying to rob people and harm people and shooting bullets into the air is never a good idea because you can get yourself hurt. And if you need somebody to tell you that and to teach you that, then, you're not for me. I can't, me and you can't operate on the same wavelength. If you need somebody to tell you that that's wrong and you're going to get yourself hurt. I mean, I don't know, and get other people hurt. So I don't know what's going on. But, I'll tell you this, the way people just act in general, and that's why I'm never surprised anymore at the way people act, because you got to understand, I come from a culture where basically my family's village was massacred because of their religion, just because of their religion. So, I understand persecution. I understand all that stuff. I think this world can be a horrible, cold place. But, one thing I'll tell all of you is don't expect too much from human beings because, as I said before, and science backs this, a human being is 1.6% different genetically as far as DNA goes from a chimpanzee. 1.6% is the difference between me and a chimpanzee. And so as long as that's the case, if you're expecting humans to be this, amazing end-all, be-all creatures, I mean, look, they destroy the earth, they kill each other left and right. It's a country of 300 million people. I mean, they're going to keep killing each other. This is the way it's going to be. It's unfortunate. Should people speak out against it? Yes. Should people go protest against it? Yes. But, should you expect for violence to end? No, because humans are, primates at the end of the day. We're animals. And all animals basically kill each other. It's what they do. So, I don't expect much. I get saddened when I hear the news. I get saddened when I watch this shit, but it is what it is, man. It is what it is. That's why I think the fight game is so important because we need to channel that aggression somehow. And I think the fight game is the best way to do it. It's the safest way to do it. If you fight with somebody, especially in a controlled environment like we do at Fighters Rep in the ring with gloves and a helmet and everything, you can come back from that. I mean, if you lose the fight, okay, you lost, you got beat up, but you fight, you live a day, to fight again. You live to fight another day. Whereas when you're out in the street and you're shooting and you're robbing and you're doing crazy stuff, or if you're killing people, you don't give them a chance. There's no respect in that. There's no honor in that, in my opinion. So I don't expect everybody to follow the way I think, but that's the way I think. Expect people to be people. Expect humans to be animals. They're animals. They're fucking animals, man. That's it, That's it. Let's see what's going on in here. George, spell it iPhone touchy. Okay, you look a lot better than you did concerned. Okay. Jamaican says Masvidal's a little coward. He doesn't want to fight Usman or Colby. Instead, he wants to use his 10 minutes of fame to fight Conor. And nobody wants to see him against Diaz. I agree that nobody wants to see him fight. I mean, I think the casuals might want to watch him, but I don't want to watch him fight Diaz. I'll watch the Conor fight, and I'll watch the Diaz fight, but I'd rather watch the Usman fight. And the reason I'd rather watch the Usman fight is because I'm a real fan. I mean, not everybody's like us, Jamaican. So I guess that's the way the UFC thinks about it. They're going for the money. Everyone gets rocked in the ring. Got to come back with heat. Join us, Knuckleheads, says RGNs. Appreciate you, RGNs. Kevin from Chicago says subscribe and donate. Yes, subscribe, donate, share, comment, like this video. Help me continue to grow the channel so we can build the only honest combat sports channel where, we don't care where you're from or what you look like or nothing like that. If you're a fight fan, that's all that matters. If you're a person with integrity, a real fucking man, that's all that matters, or a real woman, that's all that matters. Don't be if you're not a bullshit artist, you're welcome on this channel by all means. Ali says, him versus Usman for the title. What do you think? And Masvidal versus either McGregor or Colby. Him versus Usman. Ali, are you referring to Burns? Is that what you're referring to, brother? Jamaican says, no, now we see why Woodley wanted no part with Leon Scott. Leon Scott. I don't know what you mean by Leon Scott. Is there a fighter named Leon Scott? Who's Leon Scott? Oh, we talking about Leon Edwards? Okay. Leon Edwards. I think Leon Edwards is a bad dude, man. I think Leon Edwards is nothing to fuck with. And by the way, Ali Masvidal versus either McGregor or Colby. I prefer Colby because they're the same weight class. Until McGregor decides to move up, I don't like that fight. RGN's in the Granite says McGregor versus Diaz 3. Then RGN's in the Granite doing this. Every action is a reaction. Nothing surprises me either. George, respect to your dad. Thank you, bro. Thank you. It is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't. Yeah. Leon Scott, a.k.a. Leon Edwards. Hey, Leon Edwards is the man. Leon Edwards is the man. Here's the thing, man. Jorge Masvidal, if you put him in there with Usman, it's a good fight. And, they've got a backstory. They've been talking trash to each other, and, it's a good fight. But the same goes as if you put Masvidal in there with Leon Edwards because of the three-piece and the soda thing. Or if you put him in there against Colby Covington. Jorge Masvidal has a history with all of these people. So anyone you put him in there with, especially since, he's Street Jesus, Cuban Jesus, whatever you want to call him, anyone you put him in there with, man, is going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time. So yeah, I like him against Usman. I like him against Leon Edwards. I like him against Colby Covington. But I think the fight that needs to be made is, I would say you give, if you want to be fair now, which is what I'm trying to be here all the time. And I'm always going to go with what I believe is correct, what I believe is fair and right and just, okay, in the fight game especially. So I think the right fight to make is Usman versus Masvidal. Usman versus Masvidal. Then you also make Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns or Colby Covington. Okay? I'd be okay with Edwards versus Burns because they're both winning all over the place. Maybe now that Woodley lost, you put Colby Covington against Woodley. Then you clear up the division and we find out who the fucking man is in the division. That's how we find out. That's the only way we find out. You got to put the best to fight the best, and these are intriguing matchups, and this is how it should be done. Woodley versus Covington. Tell me what you guys think about this. Woodley versus Covington. Do you like that fight? Edwards versus Burns now. And Masvidal versus the champ, Kamaru Usman. Those are the fights to make. McGregor needs to stay away from Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz, as we've discussed in a previous iteration of the show, is not even ranked in the top 15 in any of the divisions. McGregor should fight Gaethje if Gaethje can't fight Khabib. If Gaethje can fight Khabib, then McGregor needs to fight either Hooker or Poirier. That's the way it should be. There's argument for Islam Makhachev, but I think it makes more sense for Conor McGregor to fight Dan Hooker or Dustin Poirier, because those are the guys that deserve it. The Poirier fight is interesting because McGregor beat him in the past, and Poirier is now ranked higher than him, and it'd be interesting to see how they do now, all these years later. And the Dan Hooker fight is also interesting because he's ranked only one place behind Conor McGregor. And, as with Poirier, these, they're both stand-up guys. They'll stand and bang it out. I do think Conor would be favored in either one of those fights, although I think the Poirier fight would be a little bit more dangerous for him because I do think Poirier is more explosive as an athlete than Dan Hooker is. And he's also got a gas tank and he's also tough. So I think he'd be tougher. He'd be a tougher fight for McGregor than Dan Hooker would. Excuse me. Let's see here. Kevin from Chicago says, Wonder Bread Thompson is the missing link coming off impressive win versus Luque. That's true. Arjan's in the Granite says electro violence with Jorge MBMP versus anyone. Justin wants Habib, then Connor, then Dustin. Man, Justin Gaethje is a fucking demon, man. I love the guy. Erich Toch in here. He says, right back to you, Erich Toch. If you guys don't know, Erich Toch, okay? Erich Toch, and you can YouTube search Erich Toch, or to make it easier on yourself, you could YouTube search Erich Toch Fighters Rep, and you will see this young man perform. He's actually, I believe he's fought for me 3 times in the past. And we've also interviewed him. I've also interviewed him in person, so you can see his interview. Erich Toch is a handsome devil, I believe of Russian descent by way of Germany, made his way to the United States. Tall, extremely fit, athletic fighter. I think he's my height. Like 6'2", 6'3", but only 170 or something like that. Amazing how he makes the weight. A fantastic talent. Erich Toch went undefeated in Fighters Rep. I believe he's 3-0 or 4-0 at Fighters Rep. Maybe he's taken one other fight and lost a decision or some shit. When he made a mistake and fought for somebody else, which he should never do. But I'm just kidding about that. I don't care if people want to get experience and fight somewhere else. But Erich Toch, fantastic athlete, went like 3-0 or 4-0 or something like that, Fighters Rep. Then decided to go Hollywood on me. George, I want to be an actor. I said, hey, man, do what makes you happy. You want to be an actor, be an actor. You want to be a fighter, I'm here waiting for you. Maybe you eventually become an actor after being a successful fighter. It looks like, though, despite us letting him go, they say when you love something, you let it go, and if it comes back to you, it also loved you in return. So, I told him, yeah, go be an actor, do what you want to do. Because, I support everybody, man. If you found something you love, I support you. That's what you should do in your life. You got to do something that you love. If you're not doing something that you love, and if you're going to live through this entire lifetime without doing something that you love, you have failed in this life. So do something you love. And when you're doing something you love, it's not work, like they say. When you're doing something that you love, when you're doing your passion, it's not work. Although, actually, I would argue that it's a lot of work to do what you love and to be successful at it. But it doesn't feel like work because you're doing something you love. That being said, Erich Toch has begun to tag me in Instagram posts showing me that he's training with his incredibly adept striking coach, teammate Miguel El Mogdisi, another professional fighter. Big shout out to him, doing great work. So, Hollywood, from the ring to Hollywood, back to the ring, maybe eventually back to Hollywood. Whatever Erich Toch wants to do, we're here for you, brother. Let's see here. RJ is the granted says Connor Diaz tiebreaker. Diaz is a warrior, so I'm liking Diaz versus Connor 3-1 and 1 apiece. Hey, I don't mind. I don't mind watching it, but again, I would rather watch him take on a fight that means more for his career, and I think he'll do the same. If he's smart with his career. But anyway, knuckleheads, that's pretty much all I have. I've been on this for about an hour with you guys. So our hour together is up. I'm going to ask that you hit the subscribe button, the bell notification icon. Smash the like button. Get us some engagement. Leave some comments. Share this with the homies. Share this with your friends. Tell people to join Knucklehead Nation. We do this Monday. We do this on Friday. We do this immediately after every fight. We have free fights for you guys to watch, free interviews. So please, get your people to sign on. Get a Fighters Rep shirt or tank top or hoodie in the link below and become an official part of Knucklehead Nation, man. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to go have some whiskey and hope that no bullets rain down on my home. So that's pretty much it. Knuckleheads, until next time, which should be Monday, with Manny Robles at 7 p.m. Pacific, keep it clean. I'm the Fighters Rep, and I'm out of here.